Every individual seeks some form of socio-economic security that will ensure the basic of life, including food, shelter, clothing, and health care. While some few may be privileged to have these essentials, many others cannot afford them because they are poor and less endowed. Going by available statistics, where more than 60% of Nigerians are said to be living below the poverty line, the case becomes strong for the system to provide for this class of people. Those who are well-to-do are also expected to contribute to making life a little more easier for the not well-to-do. The question is, just how much does the Nigerian society do for the less privileged? That is our focus on Nigeria Today. I am Segun Ojelade. I'm being joined in the studio by Dr. Dave Omokaro. She is the Executive Director, Dave Omokaro Foundation, and also President of Gerontology Association of Nigeria, GERAN. Thanks, Madam, for coming to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks.
I also have with me a Reverend Father Clement Odo Emenen. He is the Director of St. Fabian Orphanage Home here in Life Camp in Abuja, and also the Secretary General of Coalition of Children's Home in Nigeria. I welcome you to the program, Reverend Father.
Thank you very much.
I think I'll start with you, Madam. When we talk of the less privileged, who are those we are talking about? Is it by sex, by education, or even by endowment?
I want to say, firstly, that I'm very happy to be on this program, and secondly, that I'm happy that you're putting the light on the less privileged and what society can do. I'll start by saying that poverty is generally defined in absolute terms by the monetary index. People living below poverty line, and that poverty line is always $1.25 a day. But in reality, the consequences of poverty go beyond just income. The consequences of poverty go in access to healthcare, nutrition, housing, transportation, like you say, basic necessities, even living environment, potable water. You have access to potable water. Do you have access to cooking fuel? Do you have access to electricity? So when you look at the multi-dimensional aspects of poverty, you can see that you can now subjectively grade, relatively grade the poor. So when we say the less privileged, we are talking about those who in relative terms, compared to the rest, have very limited, sometimes not at all, access to human development services, healthcare, basic necessities. So poverty doesn't know sex, it doesn't know age. Because when you look at the poor, children, number one, street children, orphans, children of widows. And then you come to even the unemployed youths. Sometimes the income is so low and they can't access the basic necessities. And then you also come to the older persons, very vulnerable because they are very elderly, refugees, internally displaced persons. And then you come to persons living with dementia, people with cognitive impairments, people who can't help themselves, vulnerable in every aspect of life. They can't even find food to eat. These are the less privileged. And like I said, it's relative and they are graded. Okay.
Reverend Father, you've done some considerable work on those who call the less privileged. Number one, people say, well, it's probably their fault. When we were going to school, where were they? For those that's why some people don't even give alms to beggars. But from some of the work that you have done and what you see on daily basis, the people we call the less privileged, are we doing enough for them? Do we have proper identification of who they are and where we can reach them if we want to?
Okay, just like Doctor said, I want to actually use this opportunity also to thank you for inviting me to come for this program. When you talk about the less privilege in the society, it cuts across many aspects of people, and the way also they relate to things. The most important thing there is that these people, they lack the basic amenities they are supposed to have, and they have lacks of some rights also, and you can find them anywhere. Some can be maybe from well-to-do families, and all of a sudden something happens and they are categorized under the less privilege. Let me give you an instance. We live in a country wherein we have this insurgency all about everywhere. Somebody can be doing something from a very, let me say something, a moderate home financially, and all of a sudden the insurgents will strike, and the person becomes poor,
or an orphan.
Or an orphan. So with that, the person will be categorized as a less privileged person. Some are from the remote areas, they don't even have access to education. And when they don't have access to education, you classify them as also people who are less privileged. The question of if
they're doing enough for them.
If they are doing enough for them in the country, as a country, the government, I think, they are trying their best, but I think they need to put in more effort also. But individuals too, like NGOs, they try their best to reach out to these people. More religious organizations also reach out to them. In fact, I happen to belong to a congregation. We call our congregation, I'm a religious priest, Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, by the name Redemptorist. Our main work is to preach and reach out to the most abandoned and the less privileged in the society.
Okay.
And you go out there, you meet them. Financially, they can be in need. And when you also talk about, but in the religious sense, when you talk about the less privileged, even those who are spiritually
Now, what is lacking? If we say, okay, we are not doing enough for them, where did we get it wrong? Because we know that our culture preaches, love for one another. Extended family system, we reach out to ourselves. So if we now have this large number of the less privileged, and they are wallowing in poverty, and with the enormous resources, where did we go wrong?
First, I want to add to what Reverend Father said. The question that you asked is, why is the poor poor? Firstly. And he rightly said that it could be as a result of shock, like people that are vulnerable on the edge of risk. Flood happens, insurgency happens, war comes, and then of course it could be the loss of the breadwinner in the family.
Yes.
It could be retirement without benefits and pensions, and then again you go further. It could also be because in the system, the government has really not put in place policy
structure,
where you have policy gaps. And when I talk about policy, I don't just talk about any kind of policy. I'm talking about policy that makes for inclusiveness, policy that ensures that the process of economic growth and the benefits of economic growth is evenly distributed. Poverty that checks inequality of opportunities. Poverty that checks intersectional discrimination. and poverty that takes cumulative discrimination. Because you know, some families, people are born into, when I say cumulative disadvantages, somebody is born into a poor family. Nutrition is poor. Access to education is none. Housing material is zero. And because that person has not been able to have the access to that which is going to break that person out of the cycle of poverty, you see that cycle continues. That poverty becomes generational poverty. So a good policy that is inclusive is a policy that aims to break a life course disadvantage. Policy that aims to ensure that children that are from disadvantaged homes, poor homes, have scholarships. That is why any serious government that wants to break poverty always goes to social protection. Social protection is not an option, it's a must for a country that wants to include, you know, break the cycle of poverty.
Okay, Reverend Father, we have heard of rich people actually going all out while government is pursuing these social schemes like Dr. Makaro said. There are individuals that have their own structures in place, come to homes like yours and then begin to, Nigerians who are well-to-do, what is their attitude to caring for the less privileged?
I think it's something that has to do with individuals and the person's love for the poor. There are people who come from a very rich family or families and who are wealthy, and at the same time they don't even have that love for the poor. But for those who do, and they visit orphanages and children's homes, or even I don't think we have homes for the elderly. We do something. Okay, we'll have some of them. Yeah, around. So, for those who go there, and when they reach out to these people, I will look at it from the perspective that they do that because they have the love for these people. Yeah. And that's the attitude they also display when they enter the homes. You see them very cheerful, playful with the kids, for instance, and they just want to identify with them.
Okay. Now, Dr. Mokara, I've always wanted to ask you this anytime I see you on TV. Care for the elderly. And then we have old people's homes. In Africa, in Nigeria, I mean, if you have your grandpa or grandma, I mean, society will blame you for taking the old one to the elderly, I mean, to the people's homes. I mean, they say his son is in Abuja. We see the son on TV every day. See where he has put his mom. What is the attitude? I mean, who are those who take their... I mean, what is there in old people's home for our aged parents? And how can we defend that in society?
First and foremost, you know, change is inevitable. And people adapt to situations that meet their need. Man is a rational man, will always be logical about situations. Yes, culturally, and even in modern times, the bond between the child and the parents, the adult children and their parents remain. In most cases, research has proven that. And mostly also because of reciprocal obligation.
Yes.
My mother invested so much to send me to school. My father invested so much to send me to school. The least I can do is reciprocate. That normative obligation is there, culturally, like you have said. But you see, there are some global factors, events, westernization, migration, geographical relocation, because of labor markets situations that have moved the face-to-face interaction, most of us, with our parents away. Not because you hate your parents, but because of situation. So sometimes you need paid help because you cannot, technology has liberated that face-to-face.
Yes.
You need paid help. That is not to say you don't love your parents. time constraints. You make time, you go see your parents. And even the living arrangement. Some people come over to Abuja, look at where they are living, look at the living arrangement. They don't have even enough room. So there are some socio-economic constraints. That is a part. And then sometimes you find a situation where the parents have protracted illnesses. Yes. For instance, dementia. Dementia is something that a professional should not handle, a non-professional should not handle. Cognitive impairment. In some societies, they stigmatize them. They call them witches, they call them wizards. They even drive them away. Whereas knowledge abroad, if you see institutions for persons with dementia, you'll be amazed at the facilities because it's tailored to meet them. So sometimes situation, protracted illness, economic situation, make options. And Nigeria is coming to that, where you have different institutional arrangement, not necessarily old people's homes. It could be respite home, it could be center for older persons to go play, interact. So it's a variety, continuum of care services. That is all it is.
Thank you. The program is Nigeria Today. We're taking a look at the care of the less privileged in our midst. But we went to the streets earlier in the day to seek opinions of some Nigerians. Let's listen to them as we take this break.
So yes and no. Because for the government, let me start with the government, they are not really doing enough. But individuals, they go out there in their own little way to help. Like sometime, my family and I went to the less privileged, took little things to them just to assist. But I believe if the government can come in, they will be able to help them better, because individually you won't really be able to do much.
I don't think they are doing much. The government is us. I believe that we have a lot to play as an individual to help the less privileged ones, not only the government, even we as individuals.
They are trying, but I think they need to come up again a little bit and to help more, because it's not enough.
Well, you're welcome back. The program Nigeria Today continues as we look at how to take care of the less privileged in our midst. Reverend Father, you've had Nigerians there. A good number of our respondents believe that both the government and the rest of society we're not doing enough to care for these people. Now, you run an orphanage, care for children. I want you to look at what it takes to run homes like that in this country. Where does the finances, where does it come from? And then who are those that you rely upon, and what care do you give to these children, especially education?
Okay. First of all, when you want to address the question of what it takes to run an orphanage or to have a home for children, especially vulnerable children and orphans. The point is having such homes, we have to also know that not every child in the home is an orphan.
Oh,
not every child in the home is an orphan. We have orphanages wherein you bring in children who are from dysfunctional families. They can't actually take care of the children, and you bring them to the home. Now you have cases wherein maybe one of the parents is still alive, okay, and the baby is also brought there for maybe just to take care of the baby for a while. To run an orphanage, going back to that question, to run an orphanage, you have to have the love for children. Or to run a home, you need to love what you want to do in the first place. If you don't have that passion, you're not driven by the love, you turn it into more like a money-making venture. Okay,
we have a couple of them.
Yeah, and that is what we see in the country right now. wherein people hide under the umbrella of orphanages, and they are running what they call baby factories. Okay,
where they sell
children. They look for means of getting children. They pay them, and pay people to bring children to them, and after that they sell off the children.
Yes.
Such an individual who engages in such an act doesn't have the love and passion for children. For children.
Yes. That brings me to my next question, Doctor. Caring for the less privileged, to some people it's a business. We have heard of cases of people exploiting. You go on the streets every day, and at major junctions you see these people carrying pictures of people that have terrible situations, conditions, and then they go in front and they start collecting money. That's exploitation. That is not care.
You see, I will still go back to government. Because when we talk about society, we are talking about the individual, the family, and the state. And the state is a regulator. He talked about setting up an orphanage. And you had mentioned older people's homes. And I'm saying that where a situation where that goes well and is regulated by legislation, the best practice and the standards of how and who and where an orphanage or any facility, residential facility for the care of elderly people should be set up lies with government.
Yes.
So I'm happy to even say that, yes, we attended a public hearing, and there are some bills coming up to regulate the establishment and the administration and the provision of services in residential facilities for older persons, so that people will be credentialed, so that the facilities will be inspected, so that even the help that you employ must be certified, trained. And then the older persons themselves, you must submit the kind of care, because you build the facility to purpose, to fit purpose.
Okay.
And then you talked about exploitation.
Yes.
Exploitation happens in cases where you don't have regulation, you don't have evaluation, you don't have monitoring, you don't have best practice,
yes,
you don't have standards. In developed societies where these things have gone on for a while, you see that who sets up an orphanage, which child even comes to the orphanage, is regulated by government. And there's regular monitoring and evaluation to make sure that the clans or the patients or the people that you have, they are not exploited.
Okay.
And then you also find a situation where, like you said, I mean, everything is open to being corrupted.
Yes. Yeah.
Where people exploit situations, they fake situations to get monies from people. Okay. That does not mean that all the people who really need the care are not in existence.
I'm very surprised that when you said not all the children in an orphanage are orphans. That brings me to probably my last question on the program. There are people out there that are having challenges of taking care of their children, and the situation is so bad because of the economic. Will you suggest that, okay, if you can't take care of the children, look for an orphanage, look for a place where they can assist? Can parents walk into an orphanage and say, okay, just for a while, can you assist me with these children? Is it possible?
Yeah, it's a yes, and at the same time, answer. In the sense that parents do walk into orphanages to ask for such help, but there is a regulation, especially from the Social Development Secretariat.
Okay.
You don't just walk into an orphanage that they should take care of your children. No, you go through the process. Okay. And there is a process. That process is that you have to meet the social welfare. Okay. You go to the secretariat. They are the ones that will bring the children to the orphanage.
Thank you.
Okay.
You've had so much on the need for regulation, on the need for policy, a particular direction or strategies towards attending to these people. Do you see us as a people improving on some of these things, with some of the things that you see, either from the point of view of government or even private individuals, NGO? Is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, there is. I will say that the Sustainable Development Goals is a basket, is a menu. If you look at the 17 goals, it's targeting poverty and targeting the poor. So if we can get the indicators and we can have implementation plan and bring all the stakeholders, reach the one that is furthest, the one that was left behind, are the less privileged that was left behind. In the rural, the remotest areas, if you can reach them with program and they participate in the process of development and then get the benefits of development, I believe that will begin to reduce, the rate of poverty in Nigeria.
I must thank you, Dr. Dave Omokaro of Dave Omokaro Foundation, for all that you said on the program and the good work you are doing in taking care of the elderly.
Thank you.
We should do the very best.
Thank you.
And then Reverend Father Clement Odoma Emene, I thank you also for all that you said on the program.
Thank you.
And we should do the very best that you do with children.
Thank you.
This is where we call it a date on the program, Nigeria Today. We shall be back tomorrow with yet another edition. I am Shegun Ojelade. Bye-bye.